Adjust my screen here. My cats are going crazy back there. Alright everybody, this is Joshua Dearden with Dearden 2007 on YouTube. Hope you'll join me in my live here. We have a few things to discuss here. Look at this. It's ridiculous. First image that comes up. Cancel culture. It's real. I don't know what that's... Anyways, one thing I want to start with is the definition. The actual definition of cancel culture. Let's see how I'm looking on here. Yep. Should be able to see myself. Okay. I want to discuss the actual definition of cancel culture. Cancel culture, or call-out culture, is a contemporary phrase used to refer to a form of ostracism in which someone is thrust out of social or professional circles, whether it be online, on social media, or in person. Now, where do we usually see cancel culture? Where is cancel culture most prevalent? Who is typically canceled? Who is typically canceled in social media the most, or in business, or in sports? Who's between men and women, who are typically canceled more often? You got it, men. But let's discuss why that is, and do you think it's reasonable? Do you think it's fair? I would argue, I don't think it's very fair. I think every social media you go to, you're gonna find statements of women ostracizing men, thrusting men out of social and professional circles, accusing men of things they've never done. Now, the other day, I came across an article that blew my mind. Now, luckily this ain't in America yet, and let's pray it doesn't get there, but it's from Daily Mail. Now, I want to, before I read this, I want to discuss how, because I have a lot of men on my Facebook and YouTube, a lot of fathers, and I want the fathers and mothers to consider, if you have a son, to consider this. To consider the fact that boys as young as 4, in London, the mayor is suggesting that children as young as 4 should be given lessons on misogyny in bid to curb violence against women. Can you imagine negative impact that this could have on any human being, a child that's a boy or an adult that's a man, could you imagine the negative impact? Basically telling your child at a young age that you're going to abuse women when you're older and you need to stop now because all men are abusive. That's basically what this London mayor is suggesting, that all men abuse and are misogynist against women. Now, we need to define so everybody doesn't, because I don't think a lot of people really understand the actual definition of misogyny. And we're going to define that right now. Misogyny is the dislike of, contempt for, or ingrained prejudice against women. The other definition that I usually go through is the bias and or hatred. Let me find it. There is a Merriam Dictionary. So many. There's one definition. I don't know where this is coming from, but basically the actual definition is the bias and or hatred of women. Now, what's the opposite of misogyny, you might ask? That's misandry. Let's discuss misandry. Because everybody wants to claim that all men are misogynistic. But does anybody know what misandry is? That's right. It's the opposite. It's the dislike of, contempt for, or ingrained prejudice against men, i.e. the male sex. Now, how many times have us guys gone on TikTok, YouTube, any social media and had women say all men are trash, all men are pigs, all men cheat? That's not true. The truth is, men are only as faithful as their options are. Let me go a little further into that. Men are only faithful as their options are. So, a average man that doesn't have a high earning salary is probably going to be the most faithful to you. You get a wealthy man, 100 G's, 6-figure, 7-figure, you get those men, and guess what? They're going to have a lot of women coming after them. And truth be told, 10% of men are sleeping with the 80% of women. That means that 80 to 90% of women are sharing the top 10% of men. And studies show, and I will show you this because nobody believes me when I say it, how many single men in America are number of men under 30 not having sex has tripled in the past decade. Many millennials aren't interested in sex. Look, all men are interested in sex. Men are not having sex because 80 to 90% of women don't want to have sex with the average man. It's just the logic. It's just the truth. Let's go on to read this a little bit. Despite it being the easiest time in history for men and women to connect through social media, dating apps, and relationship websites, Americans are having sex less. This is especially true for men, who are experiencing an alarming drought when it comes to sex. Guys, what is going on? A sociological survey finds that number of American men under the age of 30 not having sex has nearly tripled between 2008 and 2018. In 2008, about 10% of males aged 18 to 30 were not having sex. In 2018, That number rose to 28%. We are in 2022, people, and I've found the study. It shows men in 2021 and 2022 between the ages of 18 or 30 are not having sex and are virgins, and that's 30% of the U.S. male population. But I'm going to continue on this study. The highest number since the study started in 1989. However, women don't seem to suffer from the dry spell as much as men, which is true. Before I continue, sex is easier for women to acquire. That's because women don't cold approach men. And I won't say all, because there are a majority of women who say they cold approach, but the truth is, you ask any woman nowadays, the majority of women do not cold approach men. They require that a man cold approach women. And that's a fact. But let's continue reading. In 2008, 8% of women weren't banging. That's funny. Weren't banging, and in 2018 that number rose to 18%. This is a tweet on Twitter. Stunning chart. The share of men under 30 who aren't having sex has nearly tripled in the past decade, according to the Washington Post. The number of male virgins has exploded in the past decade, skyrocketing from 8% in 2008 to 27% in 2018. I see a lot of jokes along these lines, but married people are way more likely to have sex. For instance, only 11% of married didn't have sex last year, compared to 34% of the unmarried did not have sex. Final data point, the share of young men reporting no female sex partners since they turned 18, a proxy for virginity, I don't know what that means, more than tripled since 2008. I say proxy because, one, some had sex in their teens, and two, some exclusively have, okay, I don't even believe that, but okay. This eye-opening data comes from the General Social Survey, biennial nationally representative survey that has been conducted by NORC at the University of Chicago since 1972 to monitor societal changes and the growing complexity of American society. I think I read what I needed on here, proving... Would you leave my empty Coke can alone? I gotta clean up a little bit. Now let's get back to this. I want the men and women who have young boys to consider the mindset that you're putting into a child by telling them that they're going to be abusive and they shouldn't do it. Because let me be clear, I'm, what is this, March, April, May, June. I am 3 months away, not once, not ever, have I ever, nor will I ever, been abusive. I've never raped. I've never harassed. I've never harmed. I've never punched. Never kicked. Never violated a woman in any way. So to sit here and for London Mayor or any person or woman or parent or culture or whatever, to sit here and claim that all men are the same would be at the equivalent of us men saying all women cheat, all women lie, all women are the same. Now we can agree that not all women are the same. I will agree that not all women are the same. This I can agree. But you cannot claim that all men are abusive. All men are this. All men are that. But you go to any social media, you're going to have women claiming that men are trash. Men are pigs. Men ain't shit. And that's wrong. That's misandry. Let's discuss the difference between misandry and misogyny. Misandry is the biased and or hatred against men. Okay? But here's the difference between misandry and misogyny. Misogyny being the biased and or hatred against women. Misandry, the difference between misandry and misogyny is misandry is accepted socially, vicariously, and exponentially on social media. Misandry is welcomed and accepted, and nobody bats an eye about it. Okay? Now, you ask any man how they feel, and all we're trying to do is discuss how the social economics of women being socially accepted to hate men, to be biased against men, to have hatred against men, being socially acceptable. I'm here to tell you, I don't agree with that. Does it matter that I don't agree with it? Probably not. But I know I'm going to have men agreeing that this is not acceptable. But let's get into the article. If you're a mom and a dad, and you don't think that it's wrong for children as young as 4 being taught that they're going to be abusive against women, do you think that's appropriate to have a child grow up mentally believing that they're just naturally going to be hating women and naturally going to be abusive to women and naturally going to be violent? That is a toxic and unhealthy thing to put into a child's mind. I'm here to tell you that abuse is something that is taught. It is not something that just naturally comes about. I would argue the family, the home, having a father in the home, having both a mother and a father in the home, makes a child 10 times likely to be out of jail, off the drugs, fully educated, successful, and not depressed. Studies have proven that single mothers without a father in the home, the child is 10 times likely to end up in jail, homeless, not graduate, being depressed, end up dead. This is not an opinion. This is not my opinion. This is according to the studies showing that children with both a mother and a father in the home is 10 times more likely to grow up more stable, because fathers, whether women and society and social media or the news want to accept, fathers keep daughters off the pole and sons out of jail. That's a fact. We need to read into this. If you don't think that London has lost their mind teaching children that they're just naturally inhibited to be abusive when they grow up, if you don't think that's unhealthy or toxic or wrong, then you gotta question what's going on in your head, because you gotta think about the mental health of a child. What, are you gonna teach your child at 4 that he's gonna naturally abuse women, naturally be aggressive, naturally be violent. Naturally, sorry. I don't think that's healthy. I don't think it's right. It's wrong. And London has lost their mind. But let's continue. The mayor of London has said lessons on misogyny, i.e., the hatred and or bias against women, should be taught to children as young as 4, as he called on violence against women to be tackled. Sadiq Khan has launched a campaign to challenge sexist attitudes and inappropriate behaviors and to urge men to take a stand against misogyny. Okay, well, let's challenge that. Is anybody ever going to teach women to curb and take a stand against misandry? I don't think so. It's wrong. It's disgraceful. And it's quite disrespectful and not healthy to teach your child that they're just naturally going to be violent. Let's just continue. The London mayor said primary school pupils who start school at 4 years old should be taught about misogyny as part of his campaign to implement change. Anything to grow your politics, right? You gotta have the female vote, so you want to kiss the female voters up, make them feel good, make them believe that you're all about them. But in all truth, do you really care about them? I don't think so. Because you're a man teaching your country that all men are violent. So with that being said, Mr. Sadiq Khan, are you abusive to women? Were you born naturally violent against women? Did you grow up abusing women? Were you violent to women? Did you sexually assault women? Because that's basically what you're saying, that all men are born to be violent. And that's disgusting. That's wrong. Let's continue. It comes after last year saw the kidnap, rape, and murder of Sarah Everhart. Okay, let's discuss something I have not heard about yet. Okay. Let's discuss what happened to Sarah Everhart. 33-year-old marketing executive was kidnapped in South London, England as she was walking home. Okay. I'm not going to read the whole article, but I'm getting... Okay. Now, this is one... Now, it's wrong. It's disgusting. It should have never happened. But let's talk about what's going on. There are horrible people in the world. There are evil, disgusting, despicable people in the world. Yes, there are. But I'm going to quote Paul Elam very clearly, and I quoted him in my blog. He said very clearly, domestic violence is not solely a woman's issue. I'm trying to quote here. Here, let me read it from my blog. Let's see if I can just pull it up. WordPress. Alright, I'm going to pull up my blog here. Oh. Alright, so I quoted him perfectly. I'll just read it while I'm showing it. Here it is. Quoting Paul Elam, the struggle is a particularly important is sorry, a struggle the struggle is particularly important as the lack of identity and understanding may well result in some serious problems. Among them are family dysfunction, substance abuse, suicide, violence, anxiety, depression, shame, and a lack of self-respect that crosses the line into self-hatred. It's not that the current crisis of male identity is the sole cause of these problems, because it certainly isn't. Family dysfunction is a self-perpetrating formality passed down from parents to children. In and out of itself, it has little to do with modern masculinity. Alcoholism is not a male problem, nor is violence or other forms of abuse. I think I quoted him wrong. His exact words were, alcoholism is not solely a male problem, nor is violence or other forms of abuse. Though professionals practicing under a feminist shingle may send that very message. So let's be clear. The truth, the logic, the facts face that domestic violence, alcoholism, or other forms of abuse is not solely a male issue, because women are also alcoholics. Men are alcoholics. Women also GR rape. Women also rape. Women also are domestically violent in relationships. Women also cheat. So all these issues that they're painting that are solely men is a falsehood. Now, we're not going to get into the actual statistics right now because I'm trying to keep this as fast as possible, but the truth is, everything is not solely a male issue. Let's continue. And yeah, it's wrong, and it's the person that did this to Sarah Everhart should be punished to the full extent of the law. He should be put in prison and treated terribly, put to death, whatever. Whatever the law is, I say anything that ever happens to a woman or a boy, the law shouldn't cover the punishment. I think there should be a new law that if you harm someone's child, you shouldn't allow the government to punish that person. You should allow the parents the freedom and right to punish. Get out of my computer desk, goofball. You should allow the parents to punish and get out. Freaking kids. I always want to climb on my desk. Now, do I think that would ever happen? No, but I believe there's a lot of parents that would extremely agree that it should be the parents who are allowed to punish the one that harms. But with all the false rape, false sexual assault, and false other allegations going on, make sure the punishment fits the crime. Make sure the crime is actually a crime. Make sure there's no falsehood in it. And with that being said, I also believe that all false allegations, the person who intentionally falsified a assault against a man or a woman, any person who falsely accuses anybody of a crime they did not commit and stands by and watches them suffer in punishment and jail, all sorts of things, and just sit there and allow it to happen and don't feel bad, and you just sit there and laugh and enjoy that they're behind bars for something they did not commit. And I also believe that the government and the courts and the lawyers and everybody start realizing that it is not it's not guilty until proven innocent. Under the eyes of the law, the way it's written, you are innocent until proven guilty. You are not guilty until you have proven. Until someone has proven you, and the proof lines directly at you, you are not guilty until you are proven guilty. Now, I'll also say, I don't believe in this whole just believe the victim. No. If that was true, if that was fair under the eyes of the law, it wouldn't be fair. Because the fact that anybody can just claim that somebody did something and they're punished, that's... No, I don't agree. Now, yes, Sarah Everhart, the family, the friends, any victim, whether it be man or woman, that's been harmed, hurt, assaulted, anything, the person that did it to them, the actual criminal who actually hurt you, should be punished. And to the families of all victims, whether it be man or woman, my heart goes out to you, and sorry for your tragic loss. And the person that did this to your child should be punished, but under no logic or reason that I can think of would I ever just believe an accusation, ever. Because the police have come out proving that false assault allegations are very high. Yet they've proven that they don't, under all these articles I'm reading, they're not punishing the victim. Or they're not punishing the woman who falsely accused the man of what they claim to have happened. It's wrong. It's not right. But let's continue. Speaking along Crystal Palace, manager Patrick Vieira at the South London club's Selhurst Park Stadium, Mr. Khan said, "The reality is what can often begin as inappropriate attitudes and inappropriate behavior can lead towards violence against women and girls." I completely disagree. I completely disagree. The fact is, it all stems from the way you were raised. You grew up in a violent home, an unstable environment, a mentally unstable, toxic home. That child is very likely to grow up mimicking the actions of the parents. Period. But if your child was raised by both a mother and a father, non-violent, non-toxic, non-harsh environment, and they were taught discipline from a young age, key word, they have taught discipline of what's wrong and what's right. Those children are exponentially more healthy, less likely to do violence against anybody. Because, like I said, fathers keep strippers off the pole and boys out of jail. It's heartbreaking. For the last 12 months across our country, 127 women have lost their lives at the hands of men. Okay. How big is London? Okay? Let's analyze statistics. Okay? What is the population of, what is London? London is Europe. Is country? Okay. London, England. Or let's just say England. What is the population of England? Alright. There are 55.98 million people in London. And that was in 2018. Let's see in 2021. Really, Cap? The capital of England is London. Other major cities include Birmingham, Manchester, Sheffield, Liverpool, Newcastle. Okay, so according to England population will reach 56.521 million by the 1st July of 2022. Alright? Alright, so what is the percentage of 127 people out of 56.521 million people? Okay, so that's I'm guessing, because I'm not much of a percentage, but I'm guessing it would be 0.79%. Okay? So, go away. Alright, so that's 0.79% of the population of England. Okay, yeah, that's bad. That is a lot. I'll agree. That is a lot. That's a lot of people. But according to 56.521 million people, that's a small percentage of crime. Okay? Now, doesn't mean it's acceptable. Doesn't mean it's right. I don't condone it. That's not what I'm saying. But they're making it out to be that it's such a high rate of violence against women. Now, of course, this quote doesn't say anything about, claims or victims of domestic violence. It doesn't claim or state any of that. So there's a higher rate of crime if you add in all those. But let's think about this. According to the mayor, it's such a high rate that it's such a. I think what I'm trying to say is, in this Sadiq's mind, all men are the same way. That all men are raised to be violent against women. And that's wrong. It's not healthy. It's toxic. It's false. And it's wrong to try and claim that your child at the age of 4 needs to be taught that all men are just going to be violent and they're inherently violent. That's wrong. Male violence against women starts with words. I don't agree with that. Now, I would argue violence against women is a very rare thing, but it also starts with teaching your daughters not to be violent against men, not to step up to men in a violent, masculine, toxic way. Studies prove in America today that domestic violence is initiated by women 78% of the time. But over 90% of men in all domestic violence cases, whether the man has bruises or does not have bruises, whether the woman has bruises or doesn't have bruises, the men are oftentimes put in handcuffs before the police ever ask any questions. And that's wrong. And I can prove it. But we'll continue. I'm let's try something. Let's see. How unhealthy is it to teach your male child that they are violent? I don't think this is getting our inherently... I'm sure feminists are going to be writing all sorts of hateful things. This is children. Doesn't say male. Okay, boys. But the actual conversation that led that was many children grab toys from classmates. Hit, kick, or scream. Not narrow. It doesn't point an arrow specifically at boys. Women can be violent. Boys can be violent. Everything's written by feminists. It's disgusting. It's outright disgusting to claim that all boys are the same. That's just wrong. It's unhealthy. And if anybody disagrees with that, you got to look into yourself. Because if you are a parent and you have a male child, and you think it's okay and acceptable to teach your child or to just put it into your child's mind that they're just naturally going to be violent against women or abduct women or harm women, that's just wrong. People are not naturally violent against women. Men are not naturally born and raised to hurt or harm women. That's just a fact. But I would claim that in 2022 it's become socially acceptable for women to be misandric, i.e. the hatred and or bias against men, but it's socially unacceptable for men to even talk about the violence that women apply in society, against the harm that women apply in society. Because violence, as Paul Elam has proven, is not solely a male issue. Because women can also be violent. Women can also rape. Women can also sexually assault. Women can also do harm. Women can also be violent in a domestic couple. Marriage and divorce happens, divorce happens 80% of the time, and 80% of the time, women are the ones who are filing it, regardless of who's at fault. Even if the man was good to her, even if the man provided, protected, raised the children, was good to her and her children, they still are the ones filing divorce. Which is why I have truly come to the thought and the agreement that men should not get married anymore. There is no benefit for a man to get married anymore because the government incentivizes women. The government incentivizes women to divorce their husbands, to leave their husbands. Back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever it was, the government incentivized women to leave their baby father so that they can get more money from the government, because while having a man in the home, they have less money coming to them. I am currently live. Yeah. So, with that being said, I think that this is wrong. Comment below. I want to hear your thoughts on this. I just think that, I think it really upset me when I read just the title. I haven't read this until now. But if you are a parent and you have a male child, do you think that it's appropriate to teach a 4-year-old child or younger, or any child between the ages of baby and 10, to teach your child that they're naturally going to be violent against women? If you don't think that's wrong or unhealthy to put that into your child's mind, then there's something wrong with you. Because violence is a taught thing. Violence is not something that all people just naturally do. If you're raised in a 2-parent household, you're raised with discipline. Mothers can discipline, but mostly don't. And most women can't successfully discipline their child because children naturally listen to their father. You look at a lot of cases, mothers get upset because their child won't listen to them. I think it's wrong. I wanted to share this with you. Hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, comment below. Let's have a discussion on this. Have a good day.